Yeah, that fade's always tricky, guys, because we have the YouTube algorithms watching me now to make sure I don't have more than 1.36 seconds on there. To take apparently like the nursing home meal out of the hands of the guys who sang that 70 years ago. But anyway, that sounded kind of mean. But welcome to the Scary Alvarez podcast. Really happy to have the Wisco Fanatics on board. Got three of them. Tyler, Minister Mike. I'm not sure if he's ordained. Jake is
I am.
here. Okay, congratulations, man. That's awesome. We need to do some work on the Badgers, the football team. Maybe we could do some demon cleansing or whatever. But and Jake has some artwork he can show us later. But we have a fun show today for all of y'all who jumped on. Please like and subscribe, and also like and subscribe to Wisco Fanatics. They got some great stuff on the net, and they can give us their spiel in a bit. But going to talk Wisconsin football. We're going to talk some coaching changes, maybe not the one y'all wanted, but some positional changes and maybe some other ones that need to happen or could benefit the team if they did happen. And then we're going to talk portal quarterbacks. So, as I alluded to just moments ago, we've had some changes already to the Wisconsin football coaching staff. Mateos coming in for Blazik, a move that I've not been shy about how much I like. Yes, we don't know until the games happen, but he has a track record that's impressive. That's good to see. We have Robert Steeples at cornerbacks coach, the most recent hire. That, of course, shifts Haynes over to secondary coach. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm trying to unrather whether that's a promotion or a lateral for Haynes, but Haynes was one of the gentlemen I had his position group at corner I had identified could use a little bit of work. So maybe this is part of that, and we can see what you guys think. And then we have a couple other positions, maybe Jack Huber over at safeties, Kenny Guy in the quarterback. There's some flux there, depending on what the portal looks like. But let's start with whoever wants to jump in first. What are your thoughts on some of these coaching changes that have been made so far, and then beyond that, whether you think we could benefit from some additional ones?
When do you guys go? Go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, okay. I'll start with Coach Mateos getting hired on. Obviously, I think the biggest, call out in this whole thing is the history and the camaraderie that he has with Jeff Grimes, I think, going into it. And, going into next season, as we all know, I think we can kind of agree that next season's kind of like, all right, this is it for, basically everybody that's, involved with this whole thing. So, I think if, especially with Coach Grimes having a big say on, in terms of what else he wants to run going into next year, he wants to have guys that he's, familiar with and what he's had success with, I believe it was at Baylor. I think they worked together at off the top of my head, but I just think, with Wisconsin being well known for, in the O-line game, obviously the power run game in general, this is definitely one of those areas where, going into, next year that you have to get right. And I think, they made it a point of emphasis that, okay, we can't, screw around with what we want to, get accomplished going the next year. And that starts with, hiring the right horses going into it. So, I think Coach Mateos on paper, even though Arkansas didn't have the greatest year last year, they were still second in, the SEC and rushing at 191.9 yards a game. So that's obviously saying something coming from the SEC conference, given with what limited resources you may have at Arkansas in comparison to everybody else in general. So no, on paper, I think that's, that's great. I guess just to touch base with Coach Haynes, I do kind of agree to what you said, Scary, before when you said a lateral movement. I do think it's more along those lines.
Mike, you mentioned, Mateos and the likelihood of success. Jake and Tyler, I know you guys have done some deep dives on him. Do you feel similarly? Like I just feel very confident that room is going to be better.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Like Mike kind of alluded to, they had one of the best rushing attacks in the SEC, which when you look at record, you're like, okay, they play in the SEC. It's hard to have a good record in the SEC outside of obviously the big dogs. So I think that on its own, having that experience, and then like Mike said too, them being together, Grimes and Mateos together at Baylor, having that similar vision. Mateos knows what to expect from Grimes as he comes in. And then one other aspect that I would say would have been out of A.J. Blazek's control would be health. So, whatever they add going into 2026, I'd like to see guys healthy. which is, again, something that Blazek can't really control, but having a unified vision between your offensive line coach and your offensive coordinator, I think, is a thing that's going to benefit the Badgers a lot.
Yeah, and I think along with Jake, I'll let you pipe in real quick, Tyler. And as I think a lot of people pointed out, though, on Blazek, and it's not to put dirt on his grave. He was very well liked. He seems like a great guy. So this is not. It's not. That's never my intention. But when it starts off, you go to. And I know you have an unfortunate injury with your starting left tackle early in camp, but then you bring a guy in, and he can't play left tackle in the Big Ten, and it takes a couple games to figure that out. That was just a bad foot to get off on. I feel like it never recovered from that for him. But that's fine. That's neither here nor there. I mean, we moved on. I wish him all the best. And Blazek will absolutely find greener pastures at some point for another team. It's going to be fine. Jake, you got some thoughts on some of these coaching changes?
Yeah, so something that I'm going to be big on this week, especially, I said it on the radio yesterday, that is identity. Right, and this Wisconsin football team has had a lack thereof over the last couple of seasons. Now, I applaud Luke Fickell for what he tried to do. He tried to change the game, tried to go air raid, but you have to be able to get those 6'5", 6'6" freaking gazelles that can run on the outside to be able to run that kind of stuff. Obviously, you weren't able to do that. So then you call it back. You're like, okay, we're going to go back to our identity that has worked in Wisconsin for the last 30 years. And like Tyler said, you had some injuries up front, but also – not having the right coaches that could understand maybe what we were trying to do. So bringing in another guy that, is going to be able to communicate correctly what they want to happen up front, that's going to be a beautiful thing, and that's going to make everything else work and set in place very nicely. Wisconsin can get back to running the football and creating that identity of, okay, we can win ugly. We can also run for 500 yards on you. And that's a beautiful thing too. So they need to get the offensive line figured out, because that is where it starts up front. And obviously, if you are a Wisconsin football fan, you watched the 2025 season, you saw that wasn't very good for a majority of the year. So getting the offensive line fixed is number one on my list. So I like what they're doing.
Well, that's good to hear, and I feel similarly. And again, it's jarring looking at I know injuries were a part of this, but it's jarring looking at the leading rusher and the leading wide receiver having like 300-something yards each. I think Vinny Anthony had like 302 yards. That is almost like there's no bet in Vegas that would have let you take those numbers. I feel like it's so outlandish. So I just feel like it was. I don't want to make excuses for this coaching staff, but it's so preposterously out of whack with what a normal result would be. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of kind of a moving back to the norm in general anyway. And I do think, the fact that Mateos has worked with Grimes 2 different occasions at BYU as well, we'll see how it goes. But I do want to see what you all think about this, because I mentioned this, and we're going to get into the portal. We're going to get into portal QB targets. But let's say they do land someone who comes in expected to be the starter again. I think that is overwhelmingly the most likely route this is going to take right now. I'm of the belief that we need to take a look at quarterbacks coach. And it's not to say that Kenny Guyton needs to be fired. I like Guyton. He's a guy you want on your staff. He's a good recruiter, another guy who's well-liked, good in the locker room. But he's new enough at this where there could be you have unlimited coaches now. So you can find something for him to do, kind of like they did with Haynes. And I'm not sure if it's going to be like a caddy golfer situation, as we've seen in some places like with Mateer, but someone who might know this guy's game, whoever they get, or at least someone who's more generally experienced. What are your thoughts on the need for a quarterback coach shift going forward for the Badgers?
I guess, yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess I would be open to it. The only, I don't even want to call it pushback. I think we've gone through quarterback coaches year after year after year after year. I don't know if this is 5-6 years in a row, but I get it though, right? The position needs to be addressed, for sure. There's no question about it. I'm not going to be against it. That's just the one little thing that we got another new guy, coming through the door again, right at this position. I don't want to give him all the, credit or all the excuses in the world, but I mean, I think that's kind of like what Graham Mertz's situation sort of was, right? He had a quarterback coach every single year he was with the program as well. I just have a feeling that's the one trap, I guess maybe you want to call it, that if we keep going through this kind of cycle, this could happen. However, because you got a guy like Carter Smith who's developed a relationship with Coach Guyton. You got Ryan Hopkins, who's obviously got something started with Coach Guyton as well. But that being said, I mean, this quarterback, I mean, it's not been close up to par. I mean, even since this staff, came in, right? So I do think we do need to get it right at the end of the day. That's just kind of like my worst fear. If we do bring somebody else in again, okay, it's something completely new. We got to change up. Although I would totally understand it, especially going back to my last point, talking about the running, like the offensive line room, like this is do or die. So if you have to go out and get the best guy in the business or to what UW can afford, I think you do pull a trigger ultimately at the end of the day.
All we have is this year, guys. That's what makes us so different than most past years we've been Wisconsin fans. We're trying to analyze coaching decisions. McIntosh and Fickell, this is it, guys. I mean, I'm not trying to be cynical here, but this is it. Mm-hmm. So there may be decisions that in the best interest of the program, you traditionally would think is let's develop our guys and let's stick with Carter Smith and Hopkins and stuff. All of these things that would make a lot of sense in a Chris, like early in a Chris domain or something, or in a Chris regime. But I just feel like these guys are gonna plug and play the thing that gives them the best chance to win in 2026. Am I off base on this?
No, I agree with you 100%. Jake, you want to throw some thoughts out there? Because I want to go last on this.
So specifically on new quarterback coach, it's tough. But I go back to injuries with this too. And we have gotten so unlucky 3 years in a row now with our starting quarterback going down. It's like we can't even get through half a season with the starting quarterback to even try to envision what this offense could look like with a competent quarterback. Now,
by the way, you've heard the joke about how these anyone who's considering transferring to Wisconsin as a quarterback, major insurance companies wouldn't even give them a health insurance policy. They're like exempted, even if they're totally healthy on the test.
I saw somebody say bring back Braden Locke and let him start the first game of the season just so that we get whoever our backup is to be the starter for the rest of the year.
Braden Locke was the good old days, guys. I'm sorry, Jake. I broke your momentum as I'm wanting to do. Please continue.
No, 100%. It's true, but it also sucks, man. So the Badgers, you weren't being cynical before because they do get one shot. You get one chance at this now with a lighter schedule, as I throw up some air quotes. You are in a situation now where it has to work. You're talking about you're going to throw some money at it. You're giving another chance to a guy that majority, I would say about 75% of the fan base wants gone. People want McIntosh gone. I would say that's close to 60 to 70%. I mean, there's a lot of people that are, on the edge of their seat, like ready to turn around and never look at this team again, honestly. So if you're going to throw some money, it's got to be at a quarterback. I don't care who the coach is. You got to get a talented guy in this room. And like, I don't mean any disrespect. I don't want another Billy Edwards Jr., bro. I want a big dog. I want a big dog to lead my team. You want to be serious? You want to get taken seriously like Oregon, like Ohio State, like Michigan? Michigan's going to go through all this scandal stuff, and then September's going to roll around, and they're going to field a good team, and everybody's going to forget about it because they win and they bring in money to the state. We need a big dog up front. I don't care who the coach is. That doesn't matter to me regardless. You need to spend some money at this position and bring in the biggest guy you can.
We're gonna. Hey, that's well said and well. I really appreciate the enthusiasm, and I'm with you. And we're gonna get into that in just a minute. Let's hear what Tyler has to say, and then we are going to flip to potential portal targets at quarterback.
So you look at the quarterback room just in the 3 years that Fickell has been here. Obviously, you have two different offensive coordinators. You have, like Mike just said, with the quarterback coaches. I mean, the offensive coordinators changed multiple times. The offensive line coaches changed like 5 times in the last 6 years. And look at the 3 years that Fickell's been here. They've had, 9 quarterbacks start games? So obviously it's hard to have continuity at the position, much less at the coaching. So we'll get into some names when we get to that part, but whoever you're bringing in, if you want to bring in another guy to, who coaches that player's play style specifically, which when we get to the names, like I have a specific play style that I look for, having a guy who knows how to coach that play style and bring them in and make them say co-quarterback coaches, And the example that I would give to this is the Brewers were terrible at hitting for years. And they didn't bring in one hitting coach. They brought in 2 hitting coaches. So, I mean, you can do a co-quarterbacks coach to make sure that you get a position that's so important, especially in the game of football. Correct.
Yeah, I love that. And again, to kind of restate what I said, I'm not like anti-Kenny Guyton. I think he's good in that locker room, and I think he has a very promising future. I'm just thinking of it in terms of, as I mentioned, a coaching staff who is desperate. Like kind of like when you're in the wilderness and you're lost, and the things you will eat to stay alive look different than if you're in the suburbs at West Town Mall or something. I mean, so anyway, that's all well said, guys. Well, let's do this. Let's transition over to the portal, and I want each of you. We'll start with Mike over the next 15 minutes or so. Each of you to give me a couple of names out there that you think are realistic targets for Wisconsin. And Jake, yours may look different than other people's. And then a couple, 1 or 2 that are kind of shot in the dark, millionaire uncle leaves you at $5 million. Let's go get the guy. And see what names, see what the board looks like, and then we'll kind of like calibrate it and figure out 2 or 3 names that we think are the ones they're going to actually go after. Or going after, because they're clearly going after them right now. I know that's actually happening behind the scenes, and I've heard a few things, but I'm not going to. My info is not good enough to share it here. Let's put it that way. Jake, why don't you start us out?
All right, I'll just. I didn't like number them or anything. I just wrote down 5 guys. But the first guy on my list is Bryce Baker, formerly at University of North Carolina. He's a dual threat guy. I have said for years that I want a dual threat quarterback. It's the way that college football works. Obviously, it's the way that NFL football works now. There are actual people who think that Malik Willis is better than Jordan Love, which is silly to me. But getting a dual threat quarterback is so important in today's game. And you know what? He was under Belichick. Obviously, that was a clown show waiting to happen. But the guy is super talented, so I would take a shot in the dark on him.
Okay, that's a good. Let's do this. Let's bounce around kind of from one to the other, so we can each have. Mike, give me another name.
Okay, so I just went first off, and as far as the quarterback room is concerned, I think I'm just throwing this out there. I think we take at least 2 quarterbacks in the portal going in.
Yes.
Whether that's a starter and a sub, because he's also got to replace Daniel O'Neal too. So I'm just throwing that out there. But
yeah. Good point.
Yeah, when Tyler, Jake, and I we were throwing around names and everything, we each had our guy here. I got Jaden Craig, the quarterback from Harvard. Now, the reason why I say this. Is he much of a runner? No, but he's a winner at the end of the day, right? I kind of, when we listed all of our guys, one of the things I personally look for in the portal was, are these guys winners and how productive are they, right? It's kind of the Cignetti, it's kind of the Kurt Cignetti rule when he was asked about, the same thing with like bringing guys over, to Indiana when he first started and even going into last season. He said productivity was like the main thing that him and his staff look for going into it. So, Jaden Craig, he was a 2-time Walter Payton finalist, 18-4 record the last 2 seasons at Harvard. So he's a winner, 6'2", 215 pounds. He's got over 50 touchdowns in his career on his resume and over 6,000 yards passing. So, I mean, yes, he is more of a pocket passer, but, I look at the fact that number 1, he's a winner. Number 2, he's obviously coming from a great very respectable institution. So when you bring a kid like that in the quarterback room, it's really going to come down to the execution standpoint. As far as the whole X's and O's are concerned, I personally don't see much of an issue just going out there and executing it, right? Because you obviously got a head on your shoulders if an institution like Harvard's going to take you. So that was my quarterback, affordable quarterback that I think we could potentially bring in. I just think, at the end of the day, he's a winner and he's got, the yards and touchdowns to prove it.
Okay, that was kind of not a dark horse name, but he'll definitely improve the team GPA. That's always good. The team ACT average. Tyler, who you got for us?
So I jumped on this one early between the 3 of us, and I actually as soon as he entered the portal, I sent him a DM. I'm like, come to Wisconsin. We need a quarterback like you. And I'm with Jake. That I want a dual threat, and I think Carter Smith is a great example of showing the flashes that a mobile quarterback can be very effective in an offense that wants to run the ball. So it's not just every time that the quarterback's about to hand the ball off, okay, we can ignore the quarterback. That just takes another guy out of the equation for the defense. So essentially that after the ball is, obviously not being thrown, that now you're playing 11 on 10 because the quarterback doesn't matter. I don't want that. So I know, Mike absolutely knows ball, but I don't want a pocket passer. I don't want a Tyler Van Dyke. I don't want Tanner Mordecai, who could run a little bit more than we expected him to, but I would rather have a guy who is a dual threat. So I went with Colton Joseph from Old Dominion. I think he's a good mix of realistic, a good fit, and talented. He's got good experience. He's played almost 1,300 snaps. In 2025, he was 173 for 291. That's a little shy of 60%. A little over 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And then on the ground, had another 145 carries for a little over 1,000 yards, almost 1,100 yards, and 13 touchdowns.
Daddy.
12 fumbles, which is a little high, but getting a 1,000-yard rusher out of your quarterback who also threw for 2,600 yards and 21 touchdowns, so 34 total touchdowns, that would be amazing. I would love that at Wisconsin. And reportedly, Wisconsin has a $2 million offer out to him. So maybe some low-hanging fruit there, but Colton Joseph would be my pick.
I love it. He's kind of the one on a lot of fans' minds right now. I know that's a popular pick. Hopefully West Virginia won't slide into this one at the last second, like they did with a running back. I agree, Joseph. And it's forced me to kind of look a little bit at the stuff he does, and I do know his average air yards is a little higher than you might think it would be for a dual threat guy, and that could account for some of his completion percentage. And woes is not the right word, but ideally you want someone higher than 60%. But with the Badgers, with the Jeff Grimes kind of offense, it's hard to imagine those numbers not coming up significantly as far as completion percentage, given the shorter passes he'd likely be throwing. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to do a snake draft. I'm going to do mine real quick, and then I guess it won't snake draft, so I'm not going to give two, but I'll give mine. Kenny Minchie. Yeah. So this is the kind of high upside guy that you think has the kind of tools to make this work. You've seen some of his film in some of those Notre Dame spring games things. This is Notre Dame backup. He's got the pedigree, the things you're looking for with the feet, the things you're looking for with the arm. You do not have the game film. So that's the scary part about this. I have to imagine the price is going to be significantly lower, though, than some of these other guys for what it's worth, especially if you want to bring a second quarterback in. But in fairness, I'm not capping what our money is. We may have $5 million booked for quarterbacks for all we know. I don't know how much. I don't think we do, but it's possible. But this seems like a guy who could grow into the offense, has some eligibility left. Maybe that makes a guy like Carter Smith reconsider his future. I'm not going to worry about that. But I could see the staff rolling into 26 with a guy like Minchie, especially given Fickell's connections with Freeman and some of, they're going to talk it real. He's going to tell him if this guy, he thinks this guy has it. He's going to give his and Dan Brock. They're going to get their honest opinions. But that's a dude that I would feel comfortable with. Let's not do the snake draft. That's for fantasy football. Let's go back to Jake. We'll do the NFL draft.
So the next guy that I have on my list is Dylan Raiola, former Nebraska quarterback. Now this kind of goes against what I was saying. He can run a little bit, but he's a big guy. He's obviously played in the Big Ten. He's had some success. Last year, 181 out of 250, so 72.4 completion percentage. So he's used to that quick game. He can command an offense. 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks, and 63.9 QBR. And you know what the most important thing is? He made Nebraska relevant again for a few weeks, which, could be something to be said about Wisconsin. I would like us to be relevant for a few weeks, at least on the up and up, and feel good about my team going into November. That would be pretty cool. So I just think Dylan Raiola has a good arm. He has a lot of arm talent, and I think that he's a guy that could fit into a Jeff Grimes offense and make it work.
Really like that pick, and there's been so much pushback at the mere suggestion, and from guys who know football, guys I like, guys I respect on the airwaves, with this, no. I'm telling you, man, I understand there's some arguments that he's not all in and all this stuff, but getting a physical specimen like that, I know he's not a super, he's not a but a guy has the arm in the right harness in the right way, it could be amazing. You tell me if he says yes, you wouldn't say yes immediately to Raiola join the Badgers as a starting quarterback. I'm going to be brutally honest. I would take him. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't guys I like more, but that would not be the loss or the misstep I think that some people think it is, and that's just one guy's opinion. But again, not the top of my list, but you could do a lot worse than Raiola.
I agree.
Okay, Mike.
About Raiola than I did about Billy Edwards Jr.
Yes, Billy Edwards Jr. And again, we're learning. This isn't going to be the trash Billy Edwards Jr. show. I don't know the guy from Adam. I do truly wish him the best. I want the guy to be happy. But like, if you're asking me with a gun in my head, if like, I think he could have played last year, but maybe didn't because he was waiting for next year, I probably would err on this. I think he probably didn't play, and that doesn't scream awesome to me as far as a dude. So there's more than one reason why I didn't. I'm retroactively not a fan of that pickup, but Tyler, we're going to go with Mike real quick here. Mike, who you got? Who's the next man up on your potential list here?
So for quarterback, I mean, this is okay. So this is this like this is like the crazy pick, right?
It can be, yeah. We're just going to have time for a couple from each of you, but you feel free to kind of qualify whatever type of pick this is. It's okay if it's not your one guy. It could be your two guy, but I want to hear a name.
Okay, so I'm gonna go Brennan Sorsby. I'm gonna go crazy. Sorry, I'm going crazy pick. The reason why I don't know. I know he's going to get the Texas oil money here in the next couple of weeks as reports are out there, but you have that little glimmer of hope, right? When obviously he's had all of his success at Cincinnati, and I believe he was recruited. And Fickell, I want to say before Fickell went to Wisconsin, he was in that recruiting class. I could be wrong, but he might have some familiarity with the Fickell and some of the coaching staff there. That gives me a little the very, very like tiniest glimmer of hope. This is my crazy pick. Okay.
You're referring to Texas Tech?
Yeah.
Is that the team? Yeah. Here's the best strategy for Wisconsin. Give a fully funded round trip ticket for this kid to visit Lubbock, Texas. Any time of the year. Summer's worse, and make sure his nose is clear, because with all disrespect intended, that place is a dump. It's like a rendering factory if it were a city. And I understand you're making a lot of money there, but if I have similar amounts from Wisconsin, I'm going to Madison. But then again, I'm a Wisconsin fan. So what do you expect me to say? I like it. I like it, Minister Mike. Tyler, play us out here. Who's it? And it can be a crazy one, or it can be just another one who is likely. Just let us know how you think that's going to shake out.
So I think this guy is also bound for Texas, just the orange and white version. And my other guy, my crazy pick would be Alonzo Barnett from James Madison. I don't think he's going to go from the college football playoff with James Madison and be like, all right, I'm ready to go to Wisconsin. But I would love it if he would. For him being over 2,800 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, and then another 15 touchdowns rushing with another 700 yards to go there. So you're looking at 3,500 combined yards and 38 touchdowns. That guy is going to get super paid, but I'd love it if it was red and white instead of orange and white.
I refer to Texas.
That's where I think he's going.
Well, okay. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting to see a guy transfer when another guy's going to start the next year. I think that's unless I'm missing something. Money can make me relax as a backup and have a good time, but that's at least playing time against the Big Ten schedule is the thing you got going for you. But gentlemen, this is a 2-hour show we could just do on quarterbacks, but I really appreciate your time, all y'all. Thank you for hopping on. I think we're going to have some clarity on this QB thing within about 4 or 5 days. That's my guess. Not just because I think it's going to happen pretty quickly. I think they probably know who they got right now.
Might be
we're just waiting to make
that they address.
Yeah, I mean, and then it's game on to get those receivers and that offensive line transfer and one more running back and all that stuff. But things are you just get the QB and then the rest will follow. But yep. Tyler, Jake, Minister Mike, thank you so much for hopping on today. The square looks cool with 4 people. It's a lot easier to drop into a photo for YouTube. So that's going to be the other ones. It's like off when it's like, yeah, especially with my beautiful face so small. But yeah, on Wisconsin, let's